Welcome. This is the Senior Life Academy located on the campus of the University Park United Methodist Church here in Dallas, Texas. I'm Dee Dee Cassad, and we have with us today for our panel members Miriam Mathis, Bob Monroe, Bill Matthews, and Diana Wilson. Today our objective is to explain why we have a Senior Life ministry here in our church. And we are explaining it so that others might be interested in having one as well. So let's start out. Why is it important to have a Senior Life ministry in this church or any church? What do you think, Miriam?
I think it's important because it's there's a common belief, I believe, among most church people that seniors don't really need faith formation anymore, that they're past it, that they've already passed on what they know to their own kids and grandkids, and then they don't really need it. And because people look at faith like, an old book, you just pass it along to the next generation. But I think that we don't look at seniors as evolving and changing and needing a spiritual help and development even as seniors. I mean, I think it's important.
So many things. Yeah, I agree with you. Think, well, I've been there, done that. I don't need this anymore. That kind of a thing. Is that how you see it, Bill?
Well, some people do that, but a lot of us, so far, this week, are still stimulated by new thoughts and new dimensions.
Exactly.
The whole thing is a process. It's a dynamic. It's not static. It didn't stop when I crossed a certain birth date. And it just, some have said, kind of jokingly, it's only a number. Well, it's more than just a number. It's a real change. I am not who I was 20 years ago or even last year.
Right.
But I also have a lively interest in finding out some new stuff. And Diana and I follow an email every day it comes. I don't read it every day. But every day there's a new idea. And this week they're talking about Buddhism and Taoism and what's today. I saw it, but I don't remember. But it's amazing. And it's pointing out in this particular line of thought the similarities that we bear in the Christian tradition. Well, I know that. I've been there, done that.
Right.
Except I haven't finished that either. I found out something Sunday.
Yep, right.
When somebody else was teaching the Sunday school class.
Absolutely.
I can't believe I learned something in an adult Sunday school class. So it's really important to stay alive and to be sure to recognize that seniors want to stay alive. They just maybe get a little bit tired digging it out for themselves.
Well, when you realize that at our age we still are, we still have room to grow. That's I think a lot of us, as you said, Miriam, think, well, maybe I'm through growing. I'm through. But you're saying that's not true. That's not true. How do you look at it, Bob?
Well, I was thinking it's multidimensional. I think it's important because most of our mainstream churches are aging. And there's so many facets that Bill said. Some people want to learn. Some people may not think they want to learn, but then they're inspired and enthused when they get with others. In my Sunday school class, we had merged with a younger class because they weren't having the attendance they had hoped for. And what's come out is, yes, at the same time, we're older and empty nesters and gone on, but we share a lot of interest, as Bill said, in learning things, and we have that commonality of being parents. And that doesn't change. And so, my mind was just flooded with so many opportunities in the senior life ministry because it can have so many dimensions, anything from sharing and learning and
Mentoring.
yes, mentoring, that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And getting people who say, well, I've already done that, become regenerated and know, well, yeah, I already did that, but I forgot how much fun it was, what I learned, and the community, the Christian community sharing.
You're talking about mission opportunities. Is that what you were
Well,
referring to?
that's another, I wasn't thinking of that at the time, but yes, that is another opportunity that we can give back to.
Well, is it an overlooked section in the church? I know that a lot of money is spent on the children's department, the youth department, the young adult department, and then by the time it gets to us, most churches have run out of money for a hired ministry person. So what do? I mean, 9 out of 10 times, if you look at the mainline churches, that's what happens. And yet 70%, and I've mentioned this before, of most church memberships are over 65. So it appears to me there's a real gap there in what the overall church is interested in ministry for. So how do you think, Diane?
Well, I would like to have people redefine retirement and aging. I just think there are so many antiquated stereotypes out there about what it means if you, now I think of it this way, as when you change jobs when you're in your late 60s. I guess from my own personal experience, when I turned 70, I said to myself, wow, I don't feel old. I don't, and I still don't feel old, and that was a while ago. So, and I think there are a lot of people, I don't think I'm any different than lots of folks, especially the people sitting around this table. And to go back to your question about what do you do in a church when there's a focus on young people, that happened in this church. We had a children and family minister, we had a youth minister, and there was, until you walked in the door, there was no senior life minister. And it wasn't on anybody's plate. And people like me weren't asking for it either, which is another, I may say to myself, what's with that? Why was I so unaware that we needed it? Because now that you've created a program, it's wonderful.
Well, I will have to say, the first day, I don't know if either one of you were here that first day or not, but I had several people say to me, we've been waiting for this for a long time. Now, where was the awareness of that? Now, so I think the important thing is, to answer my own question, is that if a church becomes aware of their need, they might then do something. So I think a lot of churches, they just shift along.
They take it for granted.
Exactly.
Well, these folks have been here all this time. They know what to do, but we don't. And sometimes, I had to energize a group by saying, some of us has-beens still is.
I love it.
We're still here.
It is.
And we need to be nurtured. That's part of it is enrichment and community and having opportunities to get together and talk about ideas, and it's just a whole different way of being in the church.
Well, what suggestions do you have for churches out there who we're talking to now? How can they have a senior life ministry in their church when the funds are out? When there's no funds at all, what should they do?
DIY.
Do what?
Do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
I mean,
that's right.
As Diana said, if you hadn't walked in and sparked it, nobody probably would have stepped up. But once you got here and you started doing stuff, then a whole lot of people stepped up. And people, who wanted to be part of it and who are all now doing things that as part of the ministry, people are going to get speakers and facilitating and offering to teach classes like Diana did.
And we're going to have this conference in January that's going to bring lay people in into this church to train them and give them equipment to have a senior life ministry in their church. I think that's the important thing that we can convey to them, that it is important for your church, wherever you are, if you do not have a senior life ministry, to get one way or the other. And if it requires money, I promise you there's somebody in that church who will provide it.
Well, our Sunday school class takes up an offering every Sunday, and we have a little little kitty there, a little treasury, and it's got $1,000 in it. That could fund some programming. It's a matter of providing coordination and focus that says, to encourage. I wrote down 3 E's: encourage, energize, and enable.
Wonderful.
Just to enable something to happen.
Right.
And I promise you there'll be somebody in your church, wherever you are, that will do just that.
I saw a story on the news today about a young gal who had been told she was valedictorian at her high school, I think Duncanville. Yeah. And she gave the speech at commencement and all that, and then they told her that they made a clerical error and that she really wasn't number 1, she was number 3, which meant that she didn't get free tuition at the University of Texas. Mm-hmm. And so her family was trying to figure out how they were going to send her to college, and they did a GoFundMe page. There are ways to get out there using social media to fund programs, whether it's, and she got like $40,000. She got more than she needed.
It was actually $49,000.
Yeah, is that $49,000?
And that's my point. Usually that there's money there somewhere.
Well,
Yes,
there is. That's our church has stepped up
Yes.
to the stewardship campaign just fairly
Absolutely.
recently, and it's we've met a goal, a target. In fact, exceeded it.
Yeah.
And so that's typical. It's just a matter of conceptualizing that something needs to be done,
Well,
and to share that need.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered together, you have a Methodist committee.
Yes, you do. Very good. Well, let's talk about what works then. Give them some help here. What works and what doesn't work in senior life ministry? How did you feel about it, Mary?
Well, they were all very stimulating, but I noticed that you had said in the beginning you had to try some things that didn't work.
Yes.
And so that's when you changed. But the TED Talks were successful.
Mm-hmm.
The classes that people gave, and the great books.
Great courses.
Great courses.
Well, I can tell you what didn't work, and I thought would. I thought there's so many coffee groups that meet early in the morning. Men meet, women meet at the McDonald's or wherever. And I thought if we have such a beautiful facility and we have this mezzanine, they could come here and have coffee for free. And we had posters going out everywhere. We went to all of the shopping centers, posters. Nobody thought that was a good idea. And I thought it was a great idea. And it just did not work. The other thing that didn't work was I thought, the afternoons, seniors would like to come and have movies. That didn't work either. So you had to try a few things like that to test it out. So I do know what doesn't work. I also know that seniors do not like to come before 10:30 in the morning. They just won't do it.
But you know what, Dee Dee? I think all of those were true for us, but I would not discourage people.
Oh, I'm not.
If they think their people would like that, to try it.
Exactly.
So, because there may be people who are in a community where they don't have as many options as people in Dallas do, for instance,
and
for
the smaller
going out
churches.
for coffee.
The smaller churches would more likely be. And bridge was another. See, I thought people would like to come and play bridge or dominoes. They didn't. I had a professional person come to teach them bridge. He came for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Nobody ever came.
Wow.
So that didn't work. But again, I think you're right. In a smaller community, that may be, this is a place where we can go and play bridge. Or whatever.
They could.
So,
of course, part of it is just asking your people what they want, right?
yes.
Talking,
That's a
having
very good point.
having someone be a focus person who talks to as many people as they can who would be part of that ministry
Right.
and see what they want.
Well, for our last question before we go, let's talk about the overall benefits. What do you think the seniors have received here in these last couple of years that would be applicable to other churches? What were the benefits of having one? Not just learning and enjoying the company, but what does it say to the bigger church or to the
Well,
Any size, really.
to what, Bill?
Any size church.
Any size, yeah.
Doesn't have to be bigger or smaller.
That's right.
Just your church. Wherever your church is really where it needs to happen.
well,
And you may be the one to start it. That's just a challenge that you might want to pay attention to.
One of the things that I think that comes is recognition that there are seniors in the congregation, and just recognizing them rather than taking them for granted, as somebody said earlier. People always like to be recognized in some way and not taken for granted, and providing them opportunities for community, whether it is a study or perhaps is mentioned, they see a movie together, they play games together. Now it's getting them back into probably relationships with people they might not ordinarily see in a Sunday school class. We kind of get fixed in things. And it's hard to break into a covenant group or a Sunday school class if you're new, because people kind of have already bonded. But this offers another opening for getting people together for different reasons, and getting to know each other in the congregation when they just said hi to each other as they passed on a Sunday.
I agree. What other benefits do you think was there?
Well, I noticed kind of a cross-pollination that's happened in the past couple of years. The seniors seem to be involved in the children's musical activities, and as Bob was talking about, the Sunday schools have gotten together. I feel like there's a lot of energy around the newsletter that you put out, because people read about our programs and some of the individual seniors that they might not know or didn't know that much about. And that really helps spark more of a sense of community, I think.
Well, it is true. The most popular thing in there are the profiles of people. People are interested in what people did before they retired. And that was one of the hardest things I had to find out, is what people did. So I would recommend that in your church take a survey first and find out, because they have had exciting careers that you would never have thought of, like yours, Bob, for one thing. And how many people would think that that you had built the satellite to the moon or something? I mean, it's just unbelievable what some people have done, and then what they have done could be a huge contribution to the church. Just their knowledge and experience is immense.
for me, it's not so much the fact that they've done fabulous stuff. It's just knowing more about them.
Yeah.
It just rounds them out as people, because sometimes you look at people, you see them in the congregation, you see them walking in the halls of church, and you know their name, but you really don't know a whole lot more about them than that. And so those profiles are rich, whether these people have done astounding things or not.
Well, it's just like at lunch today, I met with a guy I've known for 40 years. I asked a simple question: what was your hometown? And he told me, and that led to a whole series of other stories. A place where you can tell your story.
Exactly.
There you go.
As simple as it may
Absolutely.
be. But a senior ministry, that ministered to me. They listened to him tell about his background. I didn't get the chance to tell mine.
Next time.
Yet,
But everybody has a story.
everybody
Has a story.
And it may be, you may not think it's important, but somebody else
but
will.
it is.
And they want to know. And you know,
Absolutely.
if you can reveal yourself, Methodists used to call that witnessing,
Yes.
you know, in the old days.
Yeah.
And somehow witnessing,
We've
and it
lost
doesn't
that,
have to
haven't
be,
we?
It doesn't have to be fancied up and made religious.
Yeah.
Just tell your story. You know, what made you who you are?
And what brought you this far?
Yeah.
You know, what brought you this far, and you know, what were the significant things in your life? And people, and when they do, they write their own. I don't write it for them.
That's right.
They write their own, and it has proven to be probably one of the best things we've had. We want to thank you for watching. We hope that we've given you enough seed material to think about having a senior life ministry in your church. We would like to hear from you. If you have other questions, our email address is at the bottom of the screen. Do contact us if you would like for us to talk about something else. This is our first program. We will be doing it for 34 weeks for your benefit and for the benefit of those who would really enjoy having a senior life program in their church. In the meanwhile, may God surround you with His grace.